What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Scotty Talks NBA. Of course, I am here right to you on DSM Media platform. If you're not already, make sure you're following DSM Media on all social media networks. That is DSM_media on Twitter, at DSM Media on TikTok, and at DSM.DoSomethingMajor on Instagram. And then, of course, on Facebook, you can just search up DSM Media, look for the logo. Today, I am here with a very special guest. You guys know him, of course. He is one of the founders of DSM Media, along with myself. Also, the co-host to Turf Talk with me. But today, we are talking NBA, and I am here with my man, Dylan Davis. How are you doing today, my friend?
What's going on, buddy? I'm glad to be back on the show. Turf Talk. We have to get on Turf Talk soon because the NFL is exploding today. So a lot to talk about. But of course, obviously right now I'm in full Sixers mode, full NBA mode. So even though there's a lot to discuss when it comes to the NFL, that's on the back burner for the time being. Now, if the Eagles would have went and got Russell Wilson, different storyline, right? But for right now, obviously, with how the Sixers have been playing and how they're undefeated with James Harden, we're full go on NBA topics.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, as Dylan mentioned, we are going to be a full go with the Sixers today. Of course, we are getting it ironed out. I think the plan, right, Dylan, is to start the Sixers specific show next week, and I think the night that we were leaning towards is Monday, but we'll definitely keep you updated.
The problem with starting it on Monday is Scotty and I will be at the game next Monday. So
I totally forgot about that.
A little bit of a schedule issue there, but we'll iron it out.
We'll figure it out. We'll definitely keep you guys updated. We'll be live over the weekend, so we'll definitely talk it out and let you guys know. But as Dylan mentioned, we will be at the game against the Denver Nuggets next Monday.
Hell yeah.
We got some really nice seats thanks to my man Dylan. I want to definitely thank him. But we're headed to that game. We get to see the best big man matchup of. I don't even know, man. Like, this is, I know it's not going to be as highly touted just because it's not playoffs or, these aren't like rivalry teams. But when you talk about MVP conversation, that's going to have huge implications.
For sure. The spotlight.
Go ahead.
The spotlight's going to be shining bright on that game when it comes to those two because, like, you only see them twice a year match up against each other.
Right.
And obviously, if Joel has a down night and Jokic drops a 30-point triple-double, you know what's coming that following Tuesday morning.
Yes, sir.
Reversely, Joel, who is my MVP favorite, I know he's your MVP favorite. He's a lot of people's MVP favorites. He could set himself, ahead in that conversation if he outplays Nikola Jokic in that game and they come away with a win. So I'm excited to get down there. It'll be my first game of the season. First time since the Wizards series last year. So it's going to be a good time.
And that is the tail end of a back-to-back. So cheers. Here's hoping that James Harden is playing in that game. But they play the Magic the night before.
Right.
I think
exactly. Correct. So if you're the Sixers, Harden came out last night and said, he hopes they have a great plan in place and that he hopes not to have to miss any more games. So who knows, a week from now, maybe he'll play on the back-to-back.
Yeah.
But if you're the Sixers, right, and even with Joel, we've seen be held out of one half of a back-to-back before.
Right.
And, he made a comment last night, maybe getting some rest here and there. Why don't you rest them in Orlando against the Magic?
Yeah.
And have them here in front of your home crowd who's paying to see these guys as we are with that matchup. Yeah, I think that would be the plan. We just have to hope at this point.
Yeah, no, and for those reasons, as we talked about earlier, like the MVP implications that game has, I do see it as it would be very telling, I would say, if Joel Embiid did not play in that game. Aside, knock on wood, anything happening before that game actually takes place. So.
Because he has a lot to say in when he's going to play, Scotty. Like, so if there's a back-to-back, and I feel like Joel has a lot of pull in whether he comes out and performs that night. And, obviously Sixers winning and Sixers being healthy come playoff time is number one priority for us, for him, for the team. But he obviously cares about winning that award.
Right.
And, he didn't get it last year to this guy who plays the same position. I highly doubt Joel's going to miss that game. Harden's the one I'm worried is going to be held out of the second half of a back-to-back, which would suck because obviously we would love to see it up close and personal.
Exactly. And, just as far as, looking at Joel Embiid's situation, even looking back to what transpired over the weekend between the Cavs and the Heat game, that would have been a situation where you would sit Joel Embiid, right? Like he kind of struggled against the Cavs on Friday night, showed a lot of
Yeah.
frustration. That would have been a perfect game.
Right.
You're already sitting Harden. You could sit Embiid. What's it matter? Because you're probably going to lose that game anyways. But nonetheless, he played. So that's a good starting point for this conversation because we are going to talk about just the weekend of basketball for the Sixers. Obviously, they started with the Cavs on Friday, Heat on Saturday, and then last night they had the Bulls home at the Wells Fargo Center. But want to start specifically with the weekend action and just what transpired between those two games. Obviously we're not going to sit here and pinpoint go through each game per se, but just looking back on the weekend itself, the action on Friday and Saturday, I guess something that I noticed, obviously aside from the first loss, since after All-Star break to the Heat, but just Embiid's body language. I was wondering, you talked about it a little bit to me over the weekend. I know we were both pretty busy, so we didn't talk too much, but what were your thoughts, watching that kind of play out? Was there any worry with his body language and, Tobias unable to get the ball into the post to him, that kind of interaction on Friday night against the Cavs? Was there any worry there with you?
So worry, no. And I discussed this on Faithful Fanatics yesterday with Gint. Like, I don't it's not something we should be, spending a lot of time talking about. Obviously, we love Joel Embiid. He's the most dominant player in the world right now. Love dude, my favorite Philadelphia athlete right now. So I'm not getting on him about this, but it even transpired Saturday. I think maybe even more so than Friday night.
Yeah.
Listen, I get fatigue. I get being tired and, being 7'2", 285 and a back-to-back. I get all that. But I feel like that's a bad excuse for this because I've seen him on second halves of back-to-backs earlier in this year come out and drop 42 in a win, right? So with this is the only part that bothers me is you're the MVP. You're the leader. So when things aren't going your way, when you're not knocking down that mid-range shot early in the game, when you're not able to get post position on Bam and the Heat are triple teaming you and forcing you into turnovers, you can't have that, whoa, it's me, puppy dog, shrug of the shoulders, jog slowly back up the court after a turnover, jog slowly back down on offense. It sends a bad message to the rest of the team, right? And it's very frustrating to watch. You haven't seen it much this year. Yeah. Those two games were maybe 2 of 3 times this entire season you've seen a bad, body language type of night from Joel Embiid. So I'm not upset about it. I'm not, getting on him about it. It sends a bad message when you're supposed to be the best player in the world right now, leading your team down the stretch, and you're just kind of dogging it. Not dogging it, but you get my point.
I know what you mean.
Facial expression, your body language. It's just, I didn't like it.
And, it's rough for me because, I see both sides of, just speaking on the situation, I guess, with Tobias Harris on Friday night. That's the one that stuck out to me. Now, obviously, the Heat game was frustrating overall, I think, for everybody that was playing in that game. But just specifically talking about Friday, it was the inability for Tobias. I think he overthrew Joel Embiid on one post-entry pass. And then after that, he refused to do any post-entry pass from that point on. And, it was a point where, Joel Embiid, he throws his hands up in the air and walked over to the corner, and then they ended up getting him the ball back. He gets an and one through Jared Allen or something. And it's in those situations, it's I get where Embiid's coming from because it fits into what we've talked about with Ben Simmons in a sense, is holding his teammates accountable and really, at the end of the day,
I'm fine with that stuff. I'm fine with that.
Yeah. And I'm not saying your point, that's what I mean. I'm seeing both sides of the thing here. He calls Ben Simmons out. That's okay. We needed him to do that publicly. In this case with Tobias Harris mid-season, we don't need any more ammo behind, negative feelings towards Tobias Harris from the fan base, from the national media. We don't need any more ammo from that disgruntled or the frustration that you may have, because I'm sure Tobias is frustrated with himself. But then on the other end of the stick, like I said, you do got to be more aware of what you're doing out there, right? Like you can't throw your hands up in the air and look frustrated right after James Harden comes to town. And it's some of the criticisms that Embiid has received over his career is like the immaturity, the trolling, that type of stuff. But as you said, the only reason that this is even, and I don't even want to call it a huge talking point, it's just something to talk about between those two games. But
because
the only reason it's apparent is because it's the only time it's happened this season.
Right.
Like that's why it's noticeable.
Right. My issue, I'm not even that upset. I don't worry about the Cavs game, right? I don't worry about throwing his hands up, calling out Tobias with his body language and his actions, right? Hand gestures. My thing, I look at Saturday specifically because it's not that part of it. It's you can just look at him and tell he's
a rough game.
Disengaged. It's a rough night. He's kind of packed it in, right? When it's not going for him. And the Heat, certain teams have found ways to bother Joel. Now, obviously, without Harden, you take that game with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
We'll talk about more about those two games in a second. But I just mean, what if they're frustrating you in the playoffs, right? What if they're triple teaming you in the corner and you turn the ball over? What if Bam's frustrating you in the first quarter, right? You're not getting calls going your way. You're going to slouch your shoulders, jog back up the floor. Like, that's the only thing I was talking about. Right. Not worried about him telling Toby.
No, I wasn't
because in his defense,
with a
7'2" center like Joel Embiid, everybody on the Sixers, I believe Allah actually said this on the broadcast last night. Like, everybody should be able to do that. Everybody should be able to make that entry pass to Joel Embiid.
100%. Yeah, that's like a whole other talking point for sure. But yes, I agree with that 100%.
But that was the negative of the weekend. That was like that was the only dude bounced back last night with a 43-piece.
Let me ask you kind of a caveat question, just on that topic. Do you think it's going to be like on nights like those, whatever the case may be in the future where James Harden may miss a game or two, is it going to be one of those things where, like, now that you've seen how things can be with James Harden, I know for us, we talked about it a little bit before we hopped on here, how much of an eyesore it is to watch the Sixers without Harden now.
Yeah.
Like, we saw that firsthand on Saturday. Mind you, Miami Heat, they have probably one of the best defenses.
Second half of back on the road.
Yeah, there's a lot that factors in there. But do you think that factors into Embiid's mindset? He's out there against the Miami Heat, the number one team in the Eastern Conference right now. They are triple teaming him. You don't have James Harden out there to space the floor. Things aren't as easy for, Tyrese Maxey in that game. Is it easier for you to pack it in at that time from like a mindset standpoint? Like, what do you think about that?
Maybe a little bit. I mean, obviously the competitiveness in those dudes, I don't think that's ever a mindset, but I think it might linger in the back of your mind on, what tonight is, right? We're sitting here. Saturday was the definition of what, Scotty? A scheduled loss.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that wasn't his mindset, but that might be sitting in the back of his mind. And when he starts the game shooting 2 of 11 or whatever from the field, and they're down by 16 in the first half, he's tired. His guys are tired. The Sixers have made the same amount of field goals as the Miami Heat have made in 3-point attempts. I'm sure that in the back of your mind, that comes out a little bit more. And you're like, man, this is a loss. Let's go.
If we had Harden, this would be, you know what I mean? You can kind of resort to that.
I'm not going to speak for him. I don't know, but I feel like that could be sitting there and you're like, man, this night sucks. Like, whatever. Like,
so speaking on, and it's actually an interesting topic that we grouped the Cavs and the Heat game together because both of those teams used a zone. And now I know they were two different forms of zones. Like the Cavs have like Lauri Markkanen at small forward. So they have like 3 7-footers in the game that like have their arms all. And I think they put like Mobley to guard like the perimeter, which is weird as well. Looking at the way, the Sixers attacked the zone on Friday night versus Saturday night, are you hopeful? Because the elephant in the room is that zone is a Sixers killer. I mean, it literally murders us every time we play a team and they run a zone, and it's usually with the Miami Heat, the Toronto Raptors, the Boston Celtics of the world. Usually a smart basketball coach has a little bit of versatility on defense, and they can throw a zone at us. Are you a lot more confident, or even just a little more confident, that they can handle a zone with James Harden on the court now after what you saw on Friday?
Yes. Yes. Like, it's just that. So you have a guy like that. It's not even a worry to me. Obviously, Saturday, it reared its ugly head because there was no James Harden, and the Sixers couldn't hit any open threes. How do you break the zone, Scotty? You knock down those open threes, and they'll stop doing that real quick. Well, when you don't do that, it looks horrible, right? How do you not beat a zone at this level? With James Harden, it's like the ball's going to be where it should be. At the time, it should be there. Everybody's going to be in the right spot. They're going to get passed open. He's going to get Joel the ball at the free throw line or at the elbow to break that little bit of a zone. And then James can help make shots. He's going to make everything else easier for everybody. Having that leader on offense in a half court when it comes to that.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about it at all anymore. Saturday, yeah. So here's what I'll say about these two games, right?
Yeah.
Well, I want to come back to Friday because that was more impressive telling, obviously, with Harden.
Mm-hmm.
Saturday night, second half of a back-to-back, they flew into Miami, landed at 3 a.m. No James Harden. Obviously, they're shorthanded. Why? Because in the trade for James Harden, they lost two pieces that came out of their rotation, and now you don't have James Harden, right? Okay. Right. Then the backup center that they just signed in DeAndre Jordan isn't playing yet, okay? So you're out there rolling with, Isaiah Joe's got to play minutes. Furkan Korkmaz has to start. And it just, the rest of your rotation just looks horrible. Paul Reed's got to play because you're shorthanded, right? So take the Saturday night game with a grain of salt. It would have been awesome if they could have came back and beat Miami without Harden because, oh my God, the confidence we would have gotten in as Philadelphia fans would have skyrocketed.
Right.
But throw that game out. But not to mention, it was one of the worst shooting nights of the season for the Sixers. Just like that Boston game, throw it out, crumble it up, don't talk about it again. Friday night's important, Scotty, because it was with Harden. It's with your fully manned group that you're going to go into the playoffs with. Cavaliers come out. They want to get out on the break. They want to beat you up on the boards. They do that. They use their length and athleticism. They get out to a 20, 22-point lead early in this game. Now, let me ask you this question because you've been throwing them at me, and I asked Gint this yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a beautiful thing because you just asked me if I feel at ease now with a zone with James Harden. When the Sixers were down 20 points in the first half, 18 points in the first half against the Cavs, were you worried?
Yeah, no, I honestly
because I had a sense of just calmness to me. Now, again, if the timing was different, if they were down 18 at the end of the third quarter, I'd be like, shit, I don't know if James is pulling us out of this one. But having him out there with Joel, I was just calm, cool, and collected. Down 20, bro. He just brings that just coolness that it's going to be okay. We need stops in a bucket. I'm going to get us buckets. I'm going to get other guys open and get guys good looks. And it's just Friday night being able to overcome a big deficit early on against a playoff caliber team in the Cavs. That was big to me. The loss followed up meant nothing.
Yeah, and that was going to be my kind of last question about the weekend was just how much did that one weigh out to you on Saturday? But I'm with you. It was painful to watch, just like the Boston game. But once you get out of it,
that's my point, right? If the Sixers play the Heat, everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, look at the Heat! The Heat are better. The Sixers can't stop it." Was that the team the Sixers are going to put out on the floor against the Heat in a 7-game series?
Right.
No. The second best player in the series, yes, because the Sixers will have the top two players in that series, wasn't playing on the second half of a back-to-back.
Yeah.
So what do you take away from that game? Who cares?
It's so funny because, we're obviously going to talk about the Eastern Conference as a whole a little bit later. But, just thinking about that, what you just said there, how many series will the Sixers walk into where they have the top two players on the court? Not just Joel Embiid now. We have James Harden, a top 5, top 10 player in the NBA right now.
80
how
to
many
90%
times do they – what'd you say?
80 to 90% of the series.
Right. Exactly. Because you look at the Cavs.
If you run into
Milwaukee, you said the Heat, the Cavs are another one where we would have the two best players in that series.
Right. I'm not going to lie to you. I love Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. If they play Boston, they have the two best players. It's a tight third with Jason Tatum.
It is tight. It's
for my money, is better than Jason Tatum. Okay, so
yeah,
you outside of the Bucks, obviously with Giannis would be him and Embiid, and then comes Harden, right? And then the Nets, obviously with KD. You could argue if Kyrie's playing or not. Those two would be the two series where they don't definitively have the two best players on the floor.
Right.
Outside of that, in the East, they have the two best players in the entire series.
I agree, 100%. That's a whole other conversation.
Let's talk about the positive in Miami. How about the fact he took Tyrese in the minivan out to the club afterward, bro?
To ask you about that because I saw Abe's comment here and he reminded me that my man Maxey and George Niang were out at Poppy's Steak with James Harden with the sparklers.
Yeah. Maxey. Oh, it was amazing to see that video. Maxey's all smiles, bro, like he always is. You know how I call him the Energizer buddy? Like he's always smiling, always bouncing around. He's in the club with just eyes lit up, teeth just showing, just so happy, dude.
I can't imagine a conversation with that dude. Like I feel like it would be otherworldly.
Maxey's parents have to be pissed that James Harden's a Sixer. His mom, really, my sweet little innocent baby boy.
Sweet boy.
Corrupted.
He's 21 now. He's turning up at the club in Miami.
James Harden showed up. He's at the club in Miami.
That's hilarious, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Maxey is so damn innocent, and to see him in the club yeah. Because Maxey, he just looks like one of those kids that is like, nah, I'm staying in the gym.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going out there
too, bro.
I'm staying in the gym.
Then he took Dad Bod George Niang to the club too. Like that group, like that three that showed up.
George Niang, man, this dude is a vibe in himself.
I love, dude. Scotty, you know how we always said, like with the Phillies and the Eagles, like we just want to see certain dudes get to the postseason and see them. He's a bench player, he's a role player. Obviously, it's the backer, but like when you see his energy and when it's a tight game and he goes and gets an N1 or hits a big three and his energy at the Wells Fargo Center, I need that in the postseason, dude.
I feel
like I need a tight ball game. George Niang bangs a three or hits an N1 over contact and just goes nuts with it around the Wells Fargo Center.
Even just having like that player that's not afraid to say shit to the other team's
fans, he don't care, fans,
bro. Like he does not give a fuck.
Nah, he might have got them in a fight in Miami at the club, bro. He'll say whatever to anybody.
He doesn't care.
Doesn't matter.
He is a vibe, man. And he was saying, I think last night he said it's like a dream come true to play with James Harden, which
of course it is.
Good interlude into the next game we want to talk about, the Sixers and Bulls game from last night. So I guess we can just start generally, kind of vague here. Takeaways from the game last night.
Real quick. I'm sorry. Backtrack real quick. We didn't even mention how spectacular Tyrese Maxey was on Friday night.
Yeah. Yes. You are correct. Bro. We don't want to gloss over that. You are correct.
Special, dude. And I'll tell you what, and we've said this about him before, the kid's he's got stones, Scotty. Like he did it last night, even when the Sixers, in fast break, when the game was still kind of close late in the game, hits that N1 and then hits a corner three. He's just got it, right? Like if it's not falling early, he'll keep shooting, which is something he wasn't doing early on in the season. And he's just, I don't know. He's special, dude. Obviously, Embiid gave you 22 on Friday night. Harden was nice on Friday night, 25 and whatever. Maxey comes out with 30? Did he have 33 on Friday?
33, 4 and 5. Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
5 for 6 from the 3-point line, which that was like the biggest knock on him coming out of college was his
he was not a good 3-point shooter. No, forget average, bro. He was not. He was
below. Yeah, he was below average. That was his biggest knock.
Now he's hitting pivot foot, turnaround, step back threes over in dude's mitts. Like he's got all the confidence and the swagger in the world, and you brought in a dude who's just unleashing the most in him. Like I think that's, if anything that James Harden does in this city, right? Obviously, pairing him next to Embiid is where everyone's mind went, and it's true. Yeah. Both of them, that pick and roll, what they're being able to do for each other, the spacing, it's true. But when you're seeing the outcome of a Tyrese Maxey now next to him, when you hear George Niang talk about how it's a dream come true and he's getting open threes all the time, Matisse Thybulle is more offensively involved. I know he didn't. I ripped him yesterday. Dude didn't score a point over the weekend, not a single point. But with Harden on the floor, he just looks more involved offensively. Yeah. He's getting looks at the rim. Harden's force feeding him the ball. Shoot the ball. He knocked down a 3 or 2 last night. Like, Harden just gets the most out of everybody, and Tyrese Maxey is shining because of it.
Let me ask you something about Tyrese Maxey, because I made a post on TikTok and it blew up, because and I'm talking blown up, like it's the most views I've ever gotten on a TikTok, and it was just a clip of Tyrese Maxey like talking after the game on Friday night, and in that clip I like put some wording on it, and I guess people found that to be controversial. I called him a superstar. Trust me, I know there's only 5 to maybe 8 players that you can consider superstars in the NBA. Speaking from that standpoint, I'm speaking from a perspective of the future, the ceiling for this kid, and what I view him as. And quite frankly, we talked about this early on in the season, like what Tyrese Maxey could be, and I didn't know it was going to happen this fast. I knew this guy was.
Me neither, bro.
I knew he was a hooper. I knew that he was going to put the work in, but like, this dude has became the 3rd star since Harden's got here, like legitimately. When you look at Tyrese Maxey, I know I called him a superstar. I just think that's where his potential is. I think he's a shining star. He's young. What do you view as like a detractor in his career? Like what can stop this kid? You know what I mean? From becoming a superstar, because it was the shooting, right? Like the shooting was the detractor. He's become like a 40% three. I didn't check the stats before we hopped on here in regarding to his 3-point percentage. He's got to be approaching 40% with the way he's been shooting in these last couple games. What can stop? Like, his defense has gotten better. We see him doing things that Matisse Thybulle does in the lane sometimes, or blocking people from behind.
He's active on defense. That's all you can ask for.
What do you think, like, what holds him back from becoming like a top 20 player in this league? Like, what, like in your eyes, what would you say is going to be like, this is what's going to hold, Tyrese Maxey back from becoming a top 5 point guard in the NBA? You know what I mean? Like what in his game would you even view that way? I'm having a hard time finding something.
It's nothing in his game. It's external.
And it's all external, right?
It's if he plays the wrong position. Something he was forced to do with no Ben Simmons was be the point guard.
Yeah.
Handle the ball, facilitate, get others involved. And I think the Sixers have basically said it before. Experts have said it. Analysts have said it, obviously. He's a scoring guard.
Yeah.
And that's what's being unleashed in him right now. Does he have ball handling skills where he can bring it up across half court, set up an offense here and there? Yeah, he can. And he can take the load off of James Harden as well. But he's a scoring guard. He's a combo guard, right? Keep him there. The way he doesn't unleash that top 20, 25 potential is if he's forced to be a traditional point guard, because he does have that little bit of hesitancy trying to get others involved, because it's just, at least for right now,
makes him think
2-3 years from now, as he's more mature, he's able to balance getting others involved and scoring, right? And being aggressive. Right now, what I've seen is when he has to get others involved, he takes that back seat. When he's 100 miles per hour and he knows, well, Harden and Embiid are going to get theirs, and now all eyes are off me, that's where you're seeing this scoring coming from. So as long as he's not forced to be a traditional point guard, I don't see anything in his way.
That was actually the answer I was looking for. That was the perfect answer, Dylan, because that's something that I hadn't even crossed my mind, but that would be the one thing. Now, obviously, Abe put in the chat there the word "I." Obviously, you got to stay humble in this game. We've seen it happen to plenty of players. They can go downhill quickly, and certainly regress. But yeah, I definitely agree with that. Just having him playing out of position, you can already see it since he's gotten to go back to a combo shooting guard-esque role with James
Scotty,
Harden.
And this isn't just like, I know it's only been 5 games with James Harden on the floor, but it's not just like, oh, he looks better.
Right.
He's dropping 28, 25, 33, 26 on 60+% shooting, on crazy 3-point percent shooting.
Yeah.
Now, do those percentages keep up? No. But the fact, like 33, 28, 26, and 22 just isn't a coincidence, right? It's unleashing his potential, and he's so young. As long as he he's able to be that combo type of guard, I think he's fine. The one thing I was laughing at, though, is like, obviously let's move on to tomorrow now, because I love how, before we came on, for those that don't know, me and Scotty said, I think this can be a quick episode. We always said blah, blah, blah. We're on a half hour right now, and we have a lot more to talk about. So as always, we're going to be here a while. But another reason, before we get into Chicago, to take Saturday with a grain of salt without Harden. Well, let's see. The Sixers scored 82 points without Harden, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here's their offensive output with Harden on the floor. 133, 125, 123, 125, 121. Are you joking? Like, you remember how, like, last year when Harden got to Brooklyn with that big three, and everyone was like, oh, we were saying, how are they going to play defense? And everyone's like, oh, it doesn't matter when you're going to average over 120, right? They haven't put up less than 121 with Harden on the floor.
It is crazy. It's crazy. And that's what I meant, just as far as it being an eyesore, the Sixers without Harden versus them with Harden. It's like, once you see basketball the right way, you can't go back, right?
Yeah. And you know what I would love? I didn't get to listen to, any national TV shows this morning. And I don't even know if they talked about it, but obviously they lose to Miami, and I'm sure that if they did talk about it, that would have been the talking point somehow. Well, they lost to the Heat, and the Heat are better than blah, blah. Well, all everyone wanted to see, right? It was just Minnesota and New York. That's all they played so far. They took care of the Cavs in a comeback win, and they kicked the dog shit out of Chicago.
Yeah. And you look at that Chicago game, a game where they win by what, 15 points?
Mm-hmm.
Harden doesn't score 20-plus points.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, that wasn't Harden's best scoring.
Maxey only scored 17.
Game, but yeah, only 17 for him, only
Kobe.
8 for Tobias. Like, and it's funny you brought up, national media and kind of their side of things, because the only thing I did catch this morning was a little bit of First Take, and I was at the gym and I was looking and I saw, some type of Sixers jersey on the screen. I was like, oh, they're talking Sixers. Let me listen here. And Tim Legler was on, which Tim, he's a good guy.
Yeah, he's riding. He's riding.
That's my dude right now. Definitely. I heard him on the Zach Lowe pod. I heard him on the Danny Green pod, and now on First Take.
He's on the morning. He's on the Gargano show on 97.5.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Okay. I wasn't even hip. I got to start listening to Cuz a little bit more in the morning, but no, he, hearing him, he obviously thinks the Sixers are the front runner in the East. But he was speaking on kind of what transpired over the weekend, and basically how, obviously the Heat game, throw that out. Harden didn't play. It's as simple as that.
Right.
With the other games, it's like you look at Embiid and then Harden, and it's like, how do you stop either of them? Say you can stop one. How do you stop both?
Exactly. That's what I was just going to say that to you. You can get it any which way you want it, dude.
Like, triple team Joel Embiid with Harden on the floor, Miami.
Go ahead. Like, that's the point, right? We just laid out the numbers in a win over a good Chicago team in the East, right? And B dominates. You got it that way, right?
Right.
Friday night, Maxey gives you 33. And Harden's just on cruise control. I'm not saying his numbers aren't ridiculous.
Yeah.
He's averaging over 10 assists a game, 12 assists a game, whatever, through the 5 games. And he's just giving you, last night, obviously, he didn't
cruise control is ridiculous.
But
that's what it is.
23, 25, 27. And he's not even having to take over a game yet,
right,
dude.
And, it's funny, like what you said about Tyrese Maxey and kind of, what could cause him to struggle is like finding that balance between facilitating and scoring. He's got the perfect guy there to teach him how, right? Like, look at how Harden manages the game. And it's actually a question I wanted to ask you is, is there any part of you that thinks Harden should be a little bit more aggressive scoring the ball? Like, at all? Or do you think that he is doing exactly what he needs to be doing right now, facilitating, building other guys' confidence up? Because that's kind of the view I'm getting, is he's trying to build these guys up right now. Matisse Thybulle, George Niang.
Because he knows what he can do.
Yeah, exactly. So what are your thoughts on that? His balance so far?
I think he's fine.
He's managing it?
I think he's fine, because last night he was aggressive. I know, like, he didn't play bad offensively, but he turned the ball over a little bit, and he didn't shoot well from 3. I think he was like 1 of 5 from 3 or something. Yeah. So, if a couple of those threes go down, we're talking about him like he's over 20 points.
Right.
He just didn't shoot well last night, right? He didn't get some calls at the rim. Outside of that, I think that if he needs to turn it up, Scotty, I think he's going to turn it up, like point blank. Like, let's say in Miami, right? Like, let's say they're playing Miami next time, and Embiid's getting frustrated, and Toby's not giving it to you. Okay, I got to take over, and I think he's more than willing to do so. 5 games in, they're 5-0 with him on the floor, and he's giving you the best of both worlds.
Yeah, and just thinking back to the weekend.
By the way, hold on, I'm sorry not to cut you off. Not such a liability on defense either. Just want to throw that out there because everyone want to talk about that too. Is he a good defender? No, not many dudes are in the NBA. No one wants to. Not many dudes want to play defense in the NBA. But guess what? He's willing and he gives help defense and he deflects balls. So who cares?
Is he a worse defender than Seth Curry? You know what I mean? Like the Sixers fans that were talking about that, like as a reason to not trade for Harden. Like after what we saw against Atlanta, Kevin Huerter turning into an all-star guard. Like I think James Harden could guard Kevin Huerter. Like I do. I really think he can guard him. Like I don't think it would be that much of an issue. So and he would have to guard James Harden. So like, it's a whole different ball game, man. It's actually crazy. And you mentioned like them getting off to a slow start in that Cleveland game, or just overall in games, that we've seen with Harden so far. They're able to fight back, obviously, but in that Cleveland game specifically, you saw it towards the end of the first quarter. He kind of knows when to get in his bag of tricks, and that's where you see the step back threes. And those step back threes, man, I cannot get enough. Like I know we get vulgar on the chat, we get vulgar on the pod and shit. But, like, you talk about getting erect over a basketball game, bro.
Chopped up on a Friday night.
James Harden, bro, like, just stepping back and, like, hitting a three. And he's left-handed, so it's beautiful. It's awkward looking. It's beautiful. And the guy's hand is, like, engraved in Harden's
it always
face.
Seems like his shot's going to get blocked.
It always seems like it's going to get blocked, bro. He hit one in, like, Obi Toppin's face against the Knicks. It's mind-blowing to see a guard that can do that, Dylan. And now we're seeing it double with him and Maxey. Like, just overjoyed is not a good enough word for that feeling. But
all right.
I wanted to ask you just a few more questions. We obviously want to get to the Eastern Conference. Just regarding the Sixers, looking at this playoff run, the reason I wanted to bring this up, Niang had a hell of a game last night and over the weekend, even against the I can't remember if it was the Heat or the Cavs. He hit like 4 threes or something. He hit 4 of 7 threes last night for 14 points, just doing what he needs to do. Who on this bench do you trust for the Sixers?
Nobody.
Aside from Niang, right?
Yeah, I mean, and trust is a strong word to throw out there because he's a shooter. So there's going to be nights where he's cold, right? But I trust George Niang, I guess, and he's a body defensively. That's a great question as well.
That is a great question.
But outside of that, nobody. I'll tell you what, Shake Milton looked pretty good Friday night.
He did.
No one looked good Saturday. And then Shake, what did Shake give you last night? He didn't play that much last night, did he?
Didn't seem like it.
Or he just wasn't much. Let me check. He just wasn't much of a factor offensively. Yeah, I mean, he played 13 minutes and only took 1 shot. He's 1 for 1 from the field, and it was a 3-pointer. So he didn't play much. What I will say is Shake's offensive game looks better than the rest of the bench. So I would ride with him, right? I love that Doc. Again, love is a strong word because I don't love Isaiah Joe having to play either. But I love that Doc said, Cork, slide down, and Isaiah Joe's going to get some run. Okay? Paul Millsap, I'm not as down on him as everybody is. At the end of the day, numbers don't really lie, and the numbers aren't very kind to him. So you got to hope DeAndre Jordan can come in and just do a little bit of what he did last night, and to a little bit more of an extent, he's just getting acclimated. But the only one I have confidence in is George Niang. That's it.
Yeah.
Danny Green, I don't have confidence in.
No, man, I tried. You know what I mean? I tried to have confidence in him.
First of all, what the hell happened last night?
What do you mean? As far as like, I never saw a follow up to that actually. Like,
he was out with a laceration.
A laceration, yes. So it wasn't
the
broken.
Ball hit. I thought he broke his finger. I thought his finger was like sideways. They said it was a laceration. There was blood on the floor. What? the ball cut his hand open. I'm so confused at what happened last night.
Yeah, I remember hearing the laceration part as well, and I had thought to myself, now obviously I haven't, like I said, I haven't heard anything as far as a follow up on this. I thought maybe like the bone like broke out of the skin or something.
Maybe that's.
I thought maybe that's it, and if that happened, then he might be done for the season. I don't know how like a injury like
you
that
haven't heard anything about it, so I don't know. I feel like that would have come out like.
If he goes down, like you have to bring some. Like I know there's not much out there on the market.
Oh.
You have to bring something in to fill that void. I had mentioned it in the chat, like a James Ennis. Like I know we're not high on him. We've tried this, you know what I mean? But anything would help at that point. But that is certainly beside the point. But I'm with you. Yeah, this bench. It's a concern. I would say that is probably the biggest concern, as we go into the playoffs is just.
But it's just, Scotty, the beautiful thing about it is I know people are worried about it, and I'm not saying it shouldn't be a worry. I just don't care that much. Like last year, in previous years, the bench was so much of an issue because, he rolled out that 5-man, hockey shift type of rotation, right. And Ben wasn't this offensive powerhouse, and obviously you didn't have Maxey either. So it was like, okay, you were flip-flopping Toby and Embiid, and you had to have a strong bench.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need that now. Like what? You just need guys that can hit shots when they're open off the bench.
Yeah.
That's it. And you just need to not get killed defensively. Because with these four, I know Tobias hasn't done it yet. With these four, you're going to get close to 100 points a game. Right now, they're averaging about 92 to 93 points a game together. That's not even including the fifth starter. Obviously, Matisse sometimes gives you 0, so that sucks. But you're essentially getting around 100 points per night from your starters. So if George Niang can come in and hit a couple threes, if Shea can just give you 6 points off the bench, right? That's, you need one more guy. And then DeAndre Jordan catches 2 lobs, gives you 4 or 5 points.
What's required from them has been minimalized.
Exactly.
As much as you can possibly
because
minimize.
people, I know Sixers fans are still worried about it.
Yeah. I agree.
What do I know? Maybe it'll come out and it'll kill them come postseason time. But if you just go around the East, Scotty, like no one's bench, like obviously Brooklyn's a deep team, right? But outside of that, like go to Milwaukee. What's Milwaukee's bench look like?
Fair enough.
Pat Connaughton. I'm serious.
I know you are. That's the funniest part.
Miami, right? Miami right now. Obviously, they have Hero come off the bench.
They're hyping up that Oladipo.
They have Hero, right? But they need Hero to score what he does.
They're getting Oladipo back.
If you just go down their averages, right, for Miami, no one's averaging really around 20. Jimmy isn't a great scorer. Bam's averaging, I think, 18, and that's a lot for Bam. Duncan Robinson's fallen off, right? Lowry's been hurt. So they need Hero to give them 20 plus a night on the bench to be in games. So no team in the East has like this high-powered bench with 4 dudes coming off of it. Like Atlanta, put it this way. You know why the Sixers were such a bad matchup for Atlanta? Because our bench sucked, and Atlanta had dudes that could give it to you off the bench.
Like legit scoring.
Gallinari. Lou Will, right? Like that's why the Sixers lost that series.
You look at that bench that Atlanta had, those are guys that can drop like a quick 10 on you, like in a row. Like Lou Williams can come in, hit 2 threes and 2 mid-range jumpers, and all of a sudden he's put up 10 points.
Exactly. And that's true. Yeah. Like, but that's my point. So if you don't even include Brooklyn, no one's got this crazy bench that puts the strikes fear into you. So like I would tell everyone to relax, and with these 4, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, I think it's a good place to kind of leave that segment and kind of the recent action. Obviously, we got a huge matchup against Brooklyn on Thursday, which don't want to spend too much. I don't want to spend any time on that tonight, just because we'll probably talk again on Thursday, I would imagine.
Yeah.
But yeah, that game is going to be huge, to say the least. I don't even know what else to say about it without getting into the actual game. So.
By the way, I listen. I hope the Sixers win. I think the Sixers win. But like, don't let them win.
Oh, I know.
Because here's my thing. Listen, I understand if they lose, don't watch national media the next day. Don't listen to anything because my God, right? But if the Sixers win, and what did everyone need to see them do, Scotty? beat contenders, right?
Right.
Oh, so you mean beat Cleveland, Chicago, and Brooklyn all in 5 days? Oh, and move to 6-0 with James Harden? Don't let them do that. Don't let them do that because I'll be a problem.
I'm with you, bro. Do not. I mean, it was funny this morning because I forgot to even throw this in when I was talking about the Stephen A. Tim Legler segment. But Stephen A.'s rebuttal was that, let's look at who they've played. But it's just, I'm going to leave it at this because I don't want to spend any more time on Stephen A. Smith. But last week he said that he was looking forward to this stretch against the playoff teams. Yeah. And we get out of the weekend and he says that that's not good enough. So you're not going to keep moving the measuring stick.
Right, exactly. And they'll keep moving the field goal post, Scotty. So they're going to go and beat Brooklyn Thursday, right? What's going to be the argument?
Milwaukee.
Ben Simmons didn't play, so you didn't even play the full.
They didn't beat Miami.
Right. Like, just keep moving it, bro. That's fine. That's fine.
Stephen A. really. Yeah, that's what he was saying, too. He doesn't want to apologize to Morey. He doesn't want to apologize to
He's not going to go back on his take. That's why he keeps moving the field goal post, right? Because he put his chips in, Scott. He's in, right, on that argument. Yeah. You can't come out and state that a dude got hosed on the deal, and then 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, backtrack it, right? So that's fine, bro. You can still make your cute little argument. I respect Stephen A. Normally, I love Stephen A. It's just a really asinine take that he took.
I agree. And look at this from Abe.
Oh, no.
Article. Yeah,
and listen, I want to send a message right now to whoever's going to see this. Abe, spread the word, bro. I know they're going to boo. And don't get me wrong, I'm going to love it, right?
Yeah.
But what I would love, because this is what he's trying to do. He's trying to, that mental state, how Philly would have been. He's trying to get the money back because he's trying to showcase how Philly fans are going to be when he's there, right?
Right.
Don't boo.
Right.
You can boo when, he first steps on the floor or whatever for a second. Do me a favor. Just scream, thank you, Ben. Thanks for Harden. Yeah. Shit, like loud as shit. Could you imagine in the middle of the game, Wells Fargo Center, James Harden's dribbling across half court, and the entire place is screaming, thank you for Harden, or thanks for Harden. That's what I want. Because guess what you do then? Because he shouldn't even get his money anyway, right? Like, he shouldn't get his money back anyway.
Right.
But don't let him get the one thing. The only thing he cares about is this.
Money. Yeah.
Keep it from him.
Because, if he wins that, he might not even say, I doubt it would get figured out before the playoffs, but he might not even play the playoffs if he can get that money back.
Yeah. By the way, remember when I came on here and, we talked about that sensitive subject that was, calling people out for mental illness, right? And it was kind of like a very touchy subject when I said it, Scotty, and it is, right?
It is, yeah.
Really, bro?
You
your mental health issues must be something because now you're back. Now you want to just go sit on the bench, right? Oh man, whatever. Like you said, I can't wait to talk about it Thursday because I'm going to be so fired up.
Me too, man. I can't say enough about that game. It's a huge game. Obviously, just don't overreact regardless, I guess. It's going to be hard to not to, though. I will admit that now. It's going to be hard to not react regardless.
Kyrie's able to play, right? Because we dropped the vaccine mandate.
Yeah, he should be good.
Well, he wasn't going to be able to before, right? Because remember Philly had the mandate as same as New York with the vaccine thing?
I'm trying to remember if we played against Kyrie this season.
We haven't.
We haven't? So, yeah.
I don't believe so, no.
Be the case then. Yeah, that would make sense. I didn't know if that was the case with players. It's the same as the fans, but that would make sense.
But now we dropped it, so.
Yeah, so he should be able to play. And, ultimately, I want to see the Nets with Kyrie.
I want him to play.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't want any excuses.
Because guess what, bro? You can get it any which way you want it.
Exactly. Last season, I'm like kind of hoping.
Let me say something. I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Obviously, we know, the Philly hatred with New York teams.
Yeah.
And Boston. God, I hate the Celtics, right? And the Hawks annoy me after the playoffs last year, right? I hate the Brooklyn Nets.
Like,
I hate the organization. I hate their players. I hate their fan base. Their fan base, right? They're a part of New York as well. They have climbed in the snap of a finger to number one on my list in the NBA. So not only do I look forward to the Sixers winning every night, I look forward to the Nets losing. Them losing to Boston was amazing to me. Keep falling down those rankings. Keep dropping, bro. That's fine. And then come to town with Kyrie and with KD, sit Ben's pansy ass right on the bench, and you can get it any which way you want it.
It's so crazy. It felt so good to watch Jason Tatum just destroy the Nets.
And I hate Boston.
And I fucking hate Boston. Like, I probably hate. It's hard for me to say. I hate New York.
I hate the Nets more. Definitively.
Yeah. The Nets. I mean, part of it is their fans. I think part of it is like KD and like the shit and his like demeanor. Like I get it. He's one of the best players on the planet, rightfully so. If he was on my squad, I'd back him 120%. I hate him, right? Like I hate the dude. He's a fucking snake. Like
I tell you, something's going to get out of hand. Something's going to get out of control at one point or another in that.
I think so too.
And I know they're downplaying it right now, right? Like Doc had the funny comment about the fans. Harden and Embiid are like, nah, it's just another game. No, because it's not just the Ben and Philly thing. The comments Brooklyn players were making and, you know, KD's comments and, you know, how he didn't want to pick James for the All-Star team. Okay.
Because how does that look like at the beginning of the game? Like, does Harden shake? Does he talk to KD at all?
Yo, real quick. Again, we're going on an hour. We didn't even get to the Eastern Conference yet. But I do want to say, did you see the video of, and listen, dude's cool, right? I've obviously never been in contact with him, but passionate fan.
76 man.
Yeah.
I saw it.
He's got to stop, bro. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like it's not that he needs to stop. Like somebody needs to
slow down. Yeah, like that.
You know what I mean?
He's fine doing what he's doing, right? And I know most of the players like him, and you can dap up with the players, whatever. But like, you can't be just walking all over the floor like you're an assistant.
Like up to the check-in table. You know what I mean? Like get away from the check-in table.
Yeah, like you sit there. If they come by you, what's up, man? They come up to you, what's up, man? You don't go walking up and down the floor like you run the place.
Yeah, and so like, you know, what you're referring to from last night when James
Harden walked away from
it. I have one respected from Harden. Like, yeah, you need to be focused on the game. This dude doesn't need to be in your face. But yeah, the other side of it is like, where is like security or whoever handles that shit?
That's all he is. He's just a fan.
Like,
and I know he's got more credit than that. I get it.
I know.
But like, at the end of the day, he's just a fan.
Yeah.
Like, could you imagine another fan sitting front row, just walking up to the scorer's table and trying to touch and talk to the players?
Exactly.
He'd be kicked out.
Exactly. But no, that's funny. Yeah, no, but you're exactly right. That shit needs to stop because it's kind of invasive, bro. Like, I don't need this fan like all up in my, like. I just think about how I'd feel as I'm about to play a game and
you're stretching.
Mind you, James Harden isn't as acquainted with him as some of these other Sixers players might be. I get he's trying to get in the hype, get in the scene, but you can't do that, man. Right before a game, that's fucking it's weird.
Right. If he comes up to you, if he crosses your path, sure, try to dap him up. Say what's up
if you want to dap him up. He'll walk by you.
You want to come up, pat him on the shoulder, try to talk to him. Like, dude, move along.
Real quick, what did you think of DeAndre Jordan? Just briefly, like I know
he was fine.
10 minutes.
He was fine. He actually did. I think he got a block. Hit some free throws. If DeAndre Jordan can hit free throws,
that was a relief.
Better than our former point guard. So I mean, hey, he was fine.
Yeah, we'll see how I play. I like him more than Charles Bassey and a Paul Reed of the world. So we'll see how that plays out. Let's talk some Eastern Conference rankings here. So basically, what we're gonna do, me and Dylan discussed this before the show, but. We're going to rank the Eastern Conference playoff teams in order. We'll start from 8, work our way up to 1 each. But what we'll also do is, for the teams that it's applicable, which player is going to be the most important to that said team's chances at success in the playoffs. So we'll go down the list, give you a player from each team in the Eastern Conference playoffs, and we'll have to do the Western Conference on a different episode, maybe next week or something. But let's start from 8. And I don't know, do you want me to go first or do you want to go first?
You can go first.
All right, I got you. So 8, I'm coming in hot. I'm coming with the Toronto Raptors. And mind you, this is more of a power rankings, right? Like it's not necessarily playoff seeding, anything like that.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So Raptors sitting at 34-30 right now. They're actually the 7th seed in the Eastern Conference. And just looking at players now, this one, take this with a grain of salt because the Raptors are so like, I don't even know how to word it. We talked about it before the show, like picking a player with the Raptors. Siakam, Fred VanVleet.
Yeah. I'm only going to give the top 6 seeds, top 6 teams in my power rankings a player that's most important.
Okay, so I'll ride with you. I did have Gary Trent Jr., but like I said, you could put Scotty Barnes, you could put a whole bunch of different guys in that spot. So I got the Raptors at number 8.
I do too, dude. I do too because I think it's a placing thing for them. They're a nice team. If you look below them, obviously Charlotte would come in right there. Atlanta, I think they're better than those 2 teams. But if you look at the top 7 that I have, I don't think Toronto is better than any of them. So I think they just fall right in that spot. And obviously, if the Nets were fully healthy, Toronto would be the 8 seed right now.
Right.
Because obviously the Nets would be ahead too. So I think they're right where they are seeding wise. So yeah, Toronto at 8. Like you said, player wise. When I say a player most important to their playoff run, I'm only taking teams I take seriously
that can actually
win the East or get to Eastern Conference Finals. Toronto, sorry, maybe I'm wrong for this. Not too worried.
So, well, I guess I'll give you my 7, and then I'll ask a caveat question to that, just so it kind of plays out correctly. So I got number 7. I actually have the Bulls here. Okay. And maybe it's a surprise, maybe it's not. I'm not very sold on the Bulls. And last night was like very telling for me, like seeing the way Embiid just like manhandled, and he does it every time he plays the Bulls, really. But last night, like especially with Harden out there, the full roster, they have like nothing for not just Embiid, but like Giannis. They have nothing for any of those type of guys. They have nothing down low. So that's really why I got the Bulls at number 7. Which I understand that might be lower than some people have them.
Well, let me ask you a quick question,
man.
Yeah, let me ask you a quick question.
Yeah.
Who do you have at 6? I'm just going to skip ahead real quick.
So I got Cavs at 6.
Okay. Well, so for you, we both had Toronto at the 8. I have Cavs at 7, Bulls at 6.
So fair enough.
Together. So for the Cavs, I just think that the Bulls have more star power. So they're not fully healthy right now. I don't know the timetable. I don't know when Lonzo's coming back. Caruso, who I can't stand, but whatever. I think they're better than the Cavs. I think the Cavs are too young. I don't know how the 900 power forwards that they have are going to match up in a playoff series. There'll be a hard out. Obviously, Garland's balling.
Yeah.
But I think they're 7. They're too young. They're too inexperienced right now. And then the Bulls at 6 for all the reasons you stated. They're pretenders. And right now they're sliding down the standings as we speak, regardless. So they're not that number 2 seed anymore that's getting disrespected. Scotty, the Bulls are 0-14 versus the top 3 seeds in each conference this season.
It's crazy.
They are what? I remember last week we talked about it. They were 2-12 or whatever at that point. Now they got to be like 2-15 against teams with a 600 or better winning percentage. They lose to every good team they play against.
Yeah.
So they, they're fun. They're cool. They got some names. As far as taking them seriously, no one does, and I don't.
Yeah.
I'll start with them, I guess, as my player. If they could be fully healthy, maybe they could win a series or 2. I don't know, depending on matchups. Zach LaVine. And I only say I pick LaVine because you know what you're going to get from DeMar DeRozan on a nightly basis. He's even overachieving this season. We've never seen him put up these kind of offensive numbers and shoot the way he shot this year. LaVine to me is that he's that number 2 next to DeRozan, and he's inconsistent, right? Like he shows you the flashes, right? He can give you 45 on a night. He can splash 7 threes on any given night.
Yeah,
but he doesn't.
Right.
So for them to make a run, Zach LaVine would have to be consistently good, giving you 24 to 26 a night and shooting well from 3.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel that. And, just speaking on the Bulls and that Levine and DeMar situation, kind of, pinpointing Levine as that guy. Um, He's kind of the one that looks like he's had to kind of fill his place out with the roster, right? Like
Mhm.
when we watch the Bulls, it seems like Levine is finding out where he fits rather than DeMar DeRozan kind of adjusting to him being the new guy on
Well,
the team.
DeRozan's taking the team over,
He's
yeah.
taking the team, right? It goes through him first and then Levine. So it is interesting in that aspect. So as you mentioned, you got the Bulls at 6. I got the Bulls at 7. Got the Cavs at 6. Um, you know, I get where you're coming from with the Bulls and the Cavs because I do agree. I think, Levine and DeMar DeRozan, and then you throw in like a Nikola Vucevic, Lonzo Ball. They probably got more talent than the Cavs and definitely a better starting lineup when they're healthy. So I won't, directly disagree with you
Yeah.
on that, obviously.
I'm not going to pick apart whether the Cavs and Bulls should be flip-flopped.
Yeah, I think the reason I looked at the Cavs, and maybe it's like recency bias, just seeing the Sixers play both of those teams in such a short window recently, where I just felt more threatened by the Cavs in that game. And part of that is because they got like a Jared Allen in the paint that can protect the rim a little bit. Darius Garland is a stud, but the guy that I actually had listed as the player that would and take this with a grain of salt because this is a player he would have to play out of his mind for the Cavs to like have a chance at anything.
I'm interested
right?
to see who you're about to say because I did write down a player for the Cavs.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Who do you got?
No. Go ahead.
Okay. I got Karis LeVert, man. And
it's not mine. It's not mine.
The reason I got Karis LeVert, and like I said, I don't think the Cavs have a really solid chance at winning really anything in the Eastern Conference, but if they were, this is a guy that we have seen be able to put up 20 to 25 points in a given game. And they're going to need somebody other than Darius Garland to get some buckets because they got Kevin Love who can shoot, Lauri Markkanen who can shoot.
That's my guy.
They got shooters around them that can shoot. Somebody's got to get some buckets. And I think Karis LeVert is that guy that can get to the rim. He can hit the outside shot. He can do a little bit of everything. He's just a guy that can't stay healthy. So that would be the big question mark for me there. But who did you have?
Kevin Love.
Yeah, Kevin Love, man. He was hot. He was hot against the Sixers, bro.
It's an outside thing because obviously he comes off the bench for Cleveland. I talked about that young team. That's why I don't take him seriously in a playoff series right now. Well, here's some championship experience off the bench for you.
Fair.
And I feel like anytime I see the Cavs beating a top team in the East or the West, Kevin Love got 20 off the bench.
That's fair.
So just an outside the box kind of guy there. They have players, dude. Don't get me wrong. You mentioned LeVert. Obviously, Garland's balling. Sexton's not even playing. Imagine what this team looks like with Colin Sexton, right? Kevin Love, Markkanen, Mobley, Jared Allen. They're nice. It's just they're young, they're inexperienced, and when you look at the top 5 of the 6 teams that I have, I can't put them above any of those.
Didn't Ja just get injured? Oh, Jared Allen, yeah. I think he
did he?
Get injured. Yeah. I can't remember what it was though. Nonetheless, I mean, yeah, he is an important piece, so that is a good point. So maybe I would put them below the Bulls in that case.
Here we go. These are the 5
5.
that are interesting, right? These are the 5 that I actually take seriously to get out of the Eastern Conference. Who you got?
5, man. I know this one's gonna hurt some people's feelings, but I got the Brooklyn Nets at number 5.
Okay.
And sitting at 32 and 33, we obviously know that they are not like they're not a 9th seed in the Eastern Conference. We know that.
Right.
But when I look at the holes on this roster, man, and it's similar. The holes are similar to what they were before they traded Harden, if not bigger now. And you look at what they got in return. I think the Nets are just an incomplete team. I think, part of what everybody says that the Sixers are going to struggle with, which the Sixers are getting their chemistry right now. I don't know if anybody else is cluing into that.
I love that.
The Nets are not. Ben Simmons is not playing. Kyrie is in and out of games. Kevin Durant is finally back with 17 or 16 games to go or whatever. So I'm not as high on the Nets as everybody else. I get when they're healthy, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. I get that. But then, when I look at the player that's most important to their playoff run, Ben Simmons. What do you get from Ben Simmons? It's a wild card, and I know some people say, "Oh, if you just get a shell of Ben Simmons, they'll be fine." I don't believe that. I think that Ben Simmons is going to have to fill a void there, and we're seeing it right now. I don't understand how people can just conclude that you get Ben Simmons back and the Nets are the best team in the NBA. I don't get how we can conclude that when we see how bad they have been. Now, I know KD has missed time. I know Kyrie's in and out. KD's health concerns aren't going to go away with the play. Like the same thing that people say about Embiid, they're worried about him getting rolled up before the playoff. KD's the same player right now, if not worse, right? Kyrie Irving is still not vaccinated. That's not changing. And the New York mayor, I know we're not here to talk about vaccination status, right or wrong. New York mayor said that he doesn't want to show Kyrie Irving special treatment. Now, when you come out and say that, it makes it really hard for you to change that rule.
Right.
Makes it really hard. So
something as serious as a pandemic. And listen, I'm happy that here in Philly, like, it's, I know a lot of people are happy about the mandate being lifted.
Yeah,
I'm not saying
100%.
it shouldn't be lifted in New York.
Exactly.
The numbers
That's
are
not our
down,
place.
blah, blah, blah. But it's a bad look, Scotty, because you've held on to this, side for so long. Now the playoffs in the NBA are coming around. You've stated you want this ring for Brooklyn so badly out to the public. And right before playoff time, you're going to allow them to play?
Right.
So we'll see. Listen, I agree with everything you said. Theoretically, it's a perfect match. Ben Simmons in front of those two, with all those shooters around him, he can do all the things that we know he does at a high level, and he won't have to worry about the other stuff. But everyone's just assuming that. Everyone's just assuming he just slips into it like a perfectly fit puzzle piece. And you don't know that. First of all, forget not playing Thursday. There's rumors that he might not even play till after March. Okay? Secondly, right now you're starting Andre Drummond. Scotty, what was an issue for the Sixers last year? Who couldn't you play Ben Simmons with on the floor?
Dwight Howard.
Okay. So what? So if Andre doesn't start, right? So now, right now you have your rotation. Well, when Ben comes back, you're going to have to fix up your rotation because you can't put those two on the floor together. So are you starting Ben at the 5?
Does he start? Right.
Is LaMarcus Aldridge? Is LaMarcus Aldridge starting because he can shoot a little bit more from the outside next to Ben? What's your rotation look like? And Steve Nash isn't the end-all be-all of basketball minds.
That's the one I didn't even get to. Steve Nash is people talk about Doc Rivers. Steve Nash is a real concern.
Yeah. So I agree with everything you just said. Let me see. All right. So I have Brooklyn at 4.
Okay.
My player is Kyrie Irving. I agree that it's Ben as well. But for me with Kyrie, it's okay, the vaccination status. Because when Ben comes back, Ben can play wherever. Kyrie can at the moment. When he's there, what Kyrie are you getting? There's always been concerns about Kyrie pre-vaccination.
Yeah.
So, is he 100%? You had him in Boston. For a dude that wanted to throw some jabs at the fans of Boston after, you lost, MF. You only scored 19 points. So what version of Kyrie Irving are you getting next to Kevin Durant and Ben Simmons when it all comes together? So we'll see. They're my 4. Number 5, I got the Boston Celtics.
Okay.
Those two teams, Boston's hot right now. I know they just beat Brooklyn. And I know I just went against the, theoretical standpoint for Brooklyn. But I do think, theoretically, when it all gets put together, they're a better team. They're a tougher out. They have a better chance to win than the Celtics team does. Obviously, with Tatum and Brown, that duo from a couple months ago, they were going to be split up, it was seeming like. And now these two are on fire. Marcus Smart seems to be getting back to his game a little bit. And they're a really good defensive team as well. Yeah. Their center rotation, they're no match for us in Philly. They're no match for Joel Embiid, but they're physical. They're big body guys. Robert Williams can fly somehow. Yeah. Grant Williams is a pain in the ass shooting the 3 all of a sudden. So I have Boston at 5. My player is Jason Tatum. So the rest of my guys are a little bit outside of the box. They're not the team's best player. But for the Celtics, I'm going with Tatum because I talked about inconsistency, right? With, Zach LaVine and other guys. Tatum tends to be inconsistent. He's a hell of a talent, but my man's shooting numbers go up and down.
Yeah.
So in a series against the Heat, the Bucks, the Sixers, the Nets, can Jason Tatum consistently give you 30 points, but 30 on high percentage shooting?
Right.
Because I'll give Jason Tatum 30 when he wants to shoot 12 of 38.
Right.
Right, or 12 of 30, right? So Jason Tatum has to be a consistent superstar for Boston to have any type of chance. So, 5 Celtics, 4 Nets.
Gotcha. Okay. So I guess I'm at 4 now.
Yeah, you're at 4.
So we kind of agree on the Nets in a sense. Number 4, I actually have the Milwaukee Bucks. And I know this would
the disrespect.
I know. Some people are gonna say I'm forgetting things and stuff like that. I honestly just view this Milwaukee team. I don't view them as the same team from last season when they won the championship, and maybe that's a good thing or a bad thing. You know what I mean? We won't know until the playoffs. But just when I look at the other top 3 teams that I have listed here, and you guys can probably guess them at this point, it's Boston, Miami, and Philadelphia. The ones I have left here. I just think that those 3 teams are more well-rounded. I think they're better than the Milwaukee Bucks.
Is that your order?
No, it is not.
Okay.
I can give you my order. It's going to be Bucks. I have Boston at 3, and I have Sixers at 2, Miami at 1. Now, looking at this, man, I'm wondering, like, in my mind, I feel like I must have just done like matchups with Philly. Like, who matches up the best with Philly? But no, in all reality, when I look at the Bucks, the reason I have Boston over the Bucks, because I think that is the one where, give or take, I may put the Bucks over Boston in that sense, and maybe Boston's a little bit of recency bias, but since the new year, Boston has been the best defensive team in the NBA. And what concerns me, with Boston versus the Bucks, is just that versatility that they have at the big man spot. That worries me. And you throw in like some electric scorers like Jaylen Brown, like Jason Tatum. You mix that with a little bit of Marcus Smart, who just seems to like always do the right thing and always, fill the hustle stats and do the intangibles. But then you have like Al Horford, which I know we hate Al Horford. I know that, he looked washed in Philly. He's not being asked to do that much in Boston. He's asked to do what he's good at, which is play defense, hit the occasional 3-point shot, and that's really about it. And then you look at Robert Williams, who they can kind of just rotate in and out. Robert Williams, like you said, jumps all over the place. He's active. He's a great defender, one of the best defenders in the NBA as far as defensive anchors and help defenders, I should say. But just the rotation. You mentioned Grant Williams. He's another tough guy. He can knock down a 3. They just have an endless amount of depth, it seems, on that roster. The Derek White trade was like a perfect piece. I know it's not the biggest piece of the deadline. Was the perfect piece for Boston to pick up, in exchange for, moving out Dennis Schroeder. Fits way better. So I don't know. Maybe I am, selling the Bucks a little bit short, which for the Bucks at 4, my key player to the Bucks is going to be Chris Middleton, which he's a guy. We talk about inconsistency. He's a guy that can give you 30 a night, right? He can give you 25 a night, but then some nights he'll have 10, 12 points. That can't happen in the playoffs. It didn't happen last postseason. And if they want a chance at running it back this season, I think he's going to have to show up like he did against Phoenix on Sunday, where he had 40-plus points in that game, and the Bucks were able to come away with the win. But maybe a little bit of recency bias with the Bucks losing to the Sixers without Harden recently, losing to the Nets without KD recently. Maybe that does play into it a little
bit. So, when it comes to Boston, the reason I have them at 5, they're very hot and they're very good defensively, and obviously that should translate to the playoffs.
Yeah.
But those other 4 teams ahead of them, if at full health, I just think Boston doesn't have enough firepower. Like Brown and Tatum are going to give you what? right? Let's say they can combine for 60, 65.
Yeah.
Where are you getting the rest of your offense from? And I would, if you take the Bucks and Celtics matchup seriously, like if you're matching those two up, I can only agree with you if Al Horford can be a serviceable body to throw at Giannis.
Right.
If he's not anymore, they have no answer for Giannis. Like I know we talked about those three big guys they rotate in and out. That's all well and good. They can't defend Giannis. They can't defend Embiid. They can't defend anybody, any type of big, right? So if Horford is able to stick with Giannis and give him some trouble and not let him get to the rim so easily, then yeah, I think Boston could give Milwaukee some trouble. But outside of that, if Giannis is able to get 35 a night, Boston's going to have some trouble. At where are we at? 3. So my 3-2-1 goes Miami, Milwaukee, Philly. So for number, I'll stick with number 3 for now because that's where you left off, right?
Yeah.
Miami Heat. Obviously, I know they're the 1 seed, have a 3-game lead over the rest of the East right now. They just did beat the Sixers, obviously without James Harden. But when I look at the two teams that I'm putting ahead of them, Miami's weird, man. They're a good team. They're a really good team. And Eric Spoelstra, is always going to be in that coach of the year type of argument. They're good defensively. They just have guys that can make shots. They find a lot of good players, right? And on Saturday night, it looked, Max Strus is banging down threes. Gabe Vincent, Caleb Martin, they're giving you problems, right?
Right.
Dude, they don't, again, offensively, because I've talked too much in previous years trying to stick up for the defensive prowess of the Sixers. What do you have? Right? Like, I know Oladipo's coming back. What's he going to give you? Kyle Lowry's coming back. What's he going to give you offensively? He was averaging like 12 before injury. Jimmy averages under like 20. Bam averages under 20. Hero's obviously a microwave off the bench, but you'd have to rely on that to even be in the game. Right. So I just don't think they have enough offensively. I know that sounds crazy. They are a good team. But in a playoff series, I'm not that sold on Miami. My player for them, though, is Kyle Lowry. Because what version of Kyle Lowry are you getting? You're going to need Kyle Lowry to be that savvy vet presence that shows up on defense and the offensive side of the ball, that can be another ball handler for you, and that can hit clutch shots late in games in the postseason. If he's not that, come on, man. I don't know. I'm not that worried about them. Maybe you're sleeping on the Bucks. Maybe I'm sleeping on the Heat. But when I just go down that roster, they got a lot of dudes, Scotty.
Yeah.
They got a lot of dudes. They don't have it. Like Jimmy, when he was in Philly, I loved him. Jimmy's not, and I know what he did in the bubble. Jimmy's not it. He's not going to walk into Milwaukee, and they're not going to beat the Bucks in a 7-game series for my money. Bam, 18 points per night. What could be a defensive player of the year candidate. He can't stop Giannis or Embiid. I know he gave Embiid trouble the other night. If Harden's on the floor, that's not happening. So I got the Heat at 3.
What's good, Further AM? Thanks for checking in. But yeah, I get your point. Yeah, when you put it that way, it's an interesting concept, I guess. Because I was looking at it, obviously from the defensive side, but where does the scoring come from with Miami? We're gonna have to wait and see on that. But yeah, I guess with Boston, just pointing back to what you said about them, I think where me and you misalign with Boston, I think it's Jason Tatum and my belief in him. I think that's kind of where the misalignment is, where I view Jason Tatum as that upper echelon caliber player. Like I think he is approaching.
Is that the Duke? Level. Is that the Duke brotherhood in you?
Maybe it might be recency bias. What I watched on Sunday, dropping 54.
Yeah, he's electric. Right. Don't get me wrong. He did it on Sunday. He does it. He does it often. But he also has some horrid shooting nights.
He does.
So again, consistency is what I need in a 7-game series. And again, what are the others giving you? Right? Tatum can give you 30. Where's the rest of the scoring come from? I don't know if they have enough. Like we've been talking about the Sixers, right? The Sixers are getting basically 100 points from their starting 5 alone.
Yeah.
What's Boston average out to?
Who knows? Maybe we're looking at the 2020, 2021 Sixers in the Boston Celtics in a sense.
Maybe.
The number one defense in the Eastern Conference, and maybe that's what we're looking at. I do get your point. Where does the scoring come from outside of Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum consistently? So we will see. Number 2, I got the Sixers there. I'm interested to hear who you have as your key player for them, because there's a lot of different avenues I think you could go. I went Tobias Harris. I think that's like an obvious one. But I also don't think that Tobias Harris has to score. Like, I don't think he has to get 18 a game for the Sixers to be successful in the playoffs. Like, I don't look at it that way. I guess the way I look at it, and the reason I put Tobias Harris, is that he could be the biggest detractor, if that makes sense. Like, if he's bad, it could be really bad. Whereas Harden's bad is still 20 and 8, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, Tobias's bad is like
8 points, 0 of 6 from 3.
0 for 6 from 3, 5 for 20 from the field. You know what I mean? Like, that's bad Tobias. So I'm looking at it from an extreme detractor sense, I guess, with Tobias Harris there.
All right. So real quick, at 2, I do have the Bucks, and I have Chris Middleton. You have Chris Middleton.
We agree there. Yeah.
I got the Sixers at 1. I have Tobias Harris. I agree with you. Your point is spot on. He's the guy that can take away the most if he's off his game.
Right.
He's the guy, to me, right. I don't need him to get 18 to 20 a game. But if he can give you 16 a game.
Yeah.
Like, we talked about, the bench could be a problem. Bench scoring. Where does the offense come from off the Sixers bench? That becomes less of a worry if Tobias is scoring within that 4. If Tobias isn't scoring, right? If he's only giving you 8 to 10, now you do need George Niang to hit 4 threes off the bench.
Right.
You don't if Tobias is scoring 16 a night, Maxi's giving you 20, Joel's giving you 30. And I know it's a lot to ask for, but it's their averages, right? Joel's going to give you 30. Harden's going to give you 24, 25. Maxi's going to give you 20. It's Tobias can give you 15, 16, 17 in that range. I know that's very close to the 18 you threw out there, but there's a difference.
There is a difference
from averaging 18 and getting 18 on a given night.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Look at Abe dropping a bomb.
Dropping 30 against, you never know, man. I think that'll be like kind of the final piece to this core that we have built here, with Tobias.
I'll say this.
We need a big game from Tobias with Harden in the line.
Real quick, before you wrap up your players and your standings with the Heat. The thing with Tobias that I've liked so far, right? He doesn't look lost. So he hasn't fit in yet. He hasn't found his rhythm shooting from 3. He hasn't, gotten as involved offensively as we would hope, right? But he doesn't look like that detractor you're talking about.
Right.
Like with Harden on the floor, right? Like obviously Saturday, everybody was bad. Take that game away. With Harden on the floor, he's playing solid defense. He's moving the ball. He's setting good screens. He's moving. He's finishing around the rim, right? We saw that angry dunk last night. Yeah. And he's shooting the 3. They're just not falling right now. If those 3s fall, we're talking about Tobias Harris averaging 18 a night.
Right.
So he just offensively, the output's not there yet, but he doesn't look lost. And that's big.
And I think, just speaking, from the perspective that we both agree that Tobias, if the Sixers are going to make a long, extended stretch in this postseason, he has to at least be a 4th scorer, right? Like, we're not even asking him to be the 3rd at this point. We've seen Maxey. Now, obviously, Maxey, 5 games. We still need Tobias to be right there with him, right? Like, basically a 3rd option. We need them to both be 3rd options in a sense. But if he can just clean things up, man, like, you know what I mean? In a sense of just being a cleanup guy. Now, I know he's not some Dennis Rodman. Like, he's not Ben Simmons that's going to fill the void of intangibles. But if he can just play with a little bit of anger, a little bit of aggressiveness, grab those boards down in the paint, cut off of, whenever the ball's coming. If James Harden's getting double teamed.
Oh, I love an angry Tobias.
Matisse Thybulle. We see him score 12 points last night. Tobias Harris should be able to get 12 points like that too, if we're being realistic. So just the little things. I think he will start to find his place in the offense, but just get in, like you said, that 15 to like 16 points. That's all we need, man.
You know what he has to do real quick?
Yeah.
I'm saying real quick because we just keep dragging it
real quick, hour and a half show.
Real quick. Listen. Well, the one thing that he has to work on is, and I gave him credit for shooting those open threes because he has done that to an extent, but he also passes up. Good look. And he just makes things really difficult on himself sometimes offensively. Yeah. When he puts the ball on the floor, he overthinks. And next thing you know, he's trying to back somebody down with a fadeaway off balance in someone's mitt. And it's a hard shot. Yeah. And it looks ugly and it clanks off the side of the rim.
Or the front.
Like, Tobias, what are you doing? Just raise up. And so if he stops that, Tobias Harris could slip and fall into 10 points in this offense.
Right. 100%. That's the best way to put it. Just fill in. Fall in line. Like, that's part of it. You know what I mean? And I hate to put it that way, but it's the truth. Because, the simple fact is, if Tobias Harris does do things that is kind of out of what we need from him, people are going to look directly to the bench and they're going to look at George Niang and they're going to say, be that. It's as simple as that, man. But I love what Abe said here. Getting a new point guard changes everything. Been lucky to only have Tobias struggling. Yeah. That's right. Could have Maxey struggling out there beside Harden. No, it's been seamless. Right.
Maybe
could have Embiid not exactly. It's been seamless. So that is a huge point. Just wrapping up here, Miami Heat, I do have at the number 1. You made a strong case for me to move them down, though. I will say that. So, maybe we've revised these before we go directly into
I would say the top 5 in the East are tough. They're tough.
It is tough. And I think we had the same teams in the top 5, so we can at least agree there. Bam Adebayo, I do have as my number 1 player for them. As far as being important, you know what you're going to get for the most part with Jimmy. Now, mind you, Jimmy was disgusting last year in the playoffs. People bring up the bubble, but then don't bring up getting swept by Milwaukee in the first round last year. So take it with a grain of salt.
Exactly.
Now, I'll give Jimmy the benefit of the doubt. You're going to get 20 and whatever from Jimmy, right? He's going to guard the best player in the other team, blah, blah, blah. Bam Adebayo, he averages 18. You saw in that game against Philly, I know they won the game. Bam only had, 2 points? He can't disappear in games like that in the playoffs, bro. Like, you're not getting away with that against Joel Embiid if James Harden is playing in that game. Like, so that's why I have Bam. And on the other side, he has to be effective defensively. That's his strong suit as a defender, an inside presence. So that has to be the other side of it. If he's going to match up with Giannis, if he's going to match up with Embiid, the big man of the East, even, who on their team is guarding KD? I don't know if they would throw Bam at him. So looking at Bam and the responsibilities that he's going to have for that team, I think they're a lot bigger than what they have been in the regular season, and it's going to be up to him to fill those big shoes that are going to be left there.
I'll tell you what, I will give Miami some credit, and help build your case here. My worry is them offensively. They're a strong suited defensive. You talked about Bam, right?
Coaching too.
PJ Tucker.
Yeah.
Jimmy's a good defender.
Yeah.
Lowry, when he's healthy, good defender. Oladipo, when healthy, good defender, right?
Good point, Chile.
We'll see. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that is a great point. Come from? The thing about Miami, and I think it's, after seeing the Sixers crumble like that against Atlanta last year, I've started looking. It's like I've created like this new rating, I guess, for teams, and it's like the dog mentality. And like Miami has that like full-fledged, like they call it heat culture. It's a real thing. They have built like a team of like tough guys, right? Like Kyle Lowry's from Philly. He's small, but he's tough. Right.
Jimmy's Butler, fake tough, but that's another
fake point. Tough, but still tough nonetheless in the NBA. Fake tough will work in the NBA. But no, the Heat are interesting. The Eastern Conference, right? We talked through it. I think, obviously there's parity, as you get towards the bottom of the Eastern Conference playoff standings. But, I mean, the Cavs and the Bulls, they have remained in the top.
Yeah, bro, that's the thing.
To be fair to them as well.
Yeah, and here's the best part. We're talking about our power rankings.
Right.
Think about the fact that we're not so far off from the Brooklyn Nets being a 7 or 8 seed, where the 1 or 2 seed is going to have to see that team in the first round.
Right.
That's annoying, right? Let's say Chicago. Chicago, if they're fully healthy, Lonzo, Vucevic, Ball, Lonzo, Vucevic, DeMar, and Levine, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to play them in the first round. Like, I mean,
Right.
I would as a six. We just swept them. They're not going to beat them 4 times in a series. But like, those are some dudes coming at you in the first round. And when you think of first round matchup for a high seed, like
if you get DeMar DeRozan first round and he's on like this MVP tear that he is right now, like 40 points a game, good luck.
Like, that felt fun.
Right.
I want my cruise control first round if I'm the 1 or 2 seed.
Because right now, look, the way it's lining up. So right now, I believe the Bulls and the Celtics would play first round, which is a crazy matchup. The Bucks,
if it ended today, the Sixers would get the Raptors with no play-in tournament,
right?
Which I'd beat all over.
Yeah, that's like we have them 8th out of our playoff team, so that's best case scenario for sure.
Watch Atlanta end up getting in through the play-in, and we get Atlanta in the first round.
Yeah, I would love to know the odds on that, but they are right there.
We will dog Atlanta.
Yeah, I do believe that as well. It's a whole different ball game this season, but I think that is going to be it.
I don't so,
episode, Dylan. We've been up in this bitch for an hour and a half, man. But that's what happens when you haven't talked in a while. Yeah. You know, we're getting all the content.
Show off the shirt, bro.
Yeah. Before we get out of here, make sure you guys are checking out the DSM merch site, man, because we got some tough ass merch on the site. See, we got a little bit. Look, I'm trying to show the whole shirt.
There we go.
Daryl Morey down here. We got Doc Rivers. Threw Danny Green on there. Maybe you should have put George Niang though. We got Tobias and Matisse. We got Maxey, Harden, and then Embiid. I'm like all over the place here. But yeah, man, head over to the site. It's only, I believe it is still only $14.
If it's on sale, yeah.
If we first drop the merch, it goes on sale immediately. But after those first 48 hours, it does go back to like $22 or something. But either way, I mean, the shirt is tough, and it's actually great quality. I know it's from TeePublic, so I don't know if you've ever bought shirts from there. It's great quality. All I do just buy a size up. I will say that.
Yeah.
But aside from that, yeah, definitely go check out the DSM merch site. We got this. We also just released the Process plus the Beard Championship Aspirations T-shirt. So go check that out. That's Joel Embiid and James Harden on there with the Larry O'Brien trophy, which is the goal this year. But yeah, definitely check out our merch site. And make sure you're following DSM Media on all social media platforms. We will have more merch as we get closer to the playoffs. Hopefully we get closer to baseball season. We are getting through the NFL playoffs. So we're going to have merch from all the sports coming out here shortly. Just keep an eye on DSM Media's social media accounts. You can find us on Twitter at DSM_media. Find us on IG at DSM.DoSomethingMajor and on TikTok at DSM Media. Make sure you're following us on all of those. As for my co-host here today, make sure you're following Dylan on Twitter at DylanJD98. For myself, make sure you're following me at Scotty Drowned. That is all the housekeeping for tonight. Well, I guess I should say, if you need to take care of yourself, fellas, head over to manscaped.com. Use code DSM for 20% off and free shipping. Make sure you're taking care of yourself, making your ladies happy, and keeping yourself well groomed. You know, I don't got much going on there, Dylan, so I can't relate. But
Dylan needs a haircut.
I need a haircut too, brother. So I'm with you. Maybe Thursday or something. But nonetheless, that's going to be it for this episode of Scotty Talks NBA. We will see you back here on Thursday. Don't know what the platform may be. It might be Scotty Talks NBA. Might be Faithful Fanatics. Whatever the case may be.
DSM Media special.
We'll make it fucking happen. It doesn't matter.
Later, boys.
That is going to be it for this episode, everybody. Have a good one. Peace.